Hope Woodard is a comedian, storyteller, and creator who turns life's chaos into connection. She is also now the host of the iHeartMedia podcast Boysober, a personal concept that sparked a global movement among women looking to prioritize themselves over men. Hi, Hope. Thank you so much for
Hi.
being here.
Oh, man, I'm excited to chat.
Okay, well, we obviously have to start with what is Boysober? What does that mean?
Yes, totally. I like to keep like the definition kind of vague because I like to tell people to like make it personal. Um, in the beginning, like it's definitely about decentering men, decentering romance, and like kind of taking a step back from male validation, romantic validation, and asking yourself, like, okay, what do I want? Now that I'm, like, not acting in a way to be chosen by a man or to,
Mm,
like, get that approval, get that romantic approval. So it's really kind of about, like, putting yourself at the center of your life and then sort of, like, doing some self-interrogation, asking yourself, like, "What do I want? What kind of sex do I wanna be having? What kind of romance do I wanna have? What does my life look like when I'm happy and alone?" And also kind of like taking responsibility for yourself,
mm.
especially in romantic situations. I feel like it's so easy these days to like blame all men, hate all men, and like I totally have been there and like they make it easy sometimes. Literally like they make it so easy sometimes. But it's like so much more empowering to be like, okay, yes, maybe it's the guy's fault, but maybe also like I can be in control of like my own steps, my own wants, and like how I interact with men and the power that I give
Mhm.
them. And how can I sort of like take ownership of that and take control of that, and how can I like take steps to get what I want, not just be what I think somebody wants me to be?
I love this concept. We talk about a lot of things in relation to that on this podcast. I've had maybe similar experiences. I'm going to ask you a little bit about yours in just a second. But we always talk about kind of what you're talking about decentralizing the relationship. Like it's a relationship, not the universe, right? Like instead of
Mhm.
revolving around the relationship in your life, building your own life as well. And then if you
Totally.
bring a relationship in as a piece of that life, great. But it doesn't have to be
Totally.
the entire universe. So
No.
go ahead.
No, like, I know you're in Nashville, and I was
Yeah.
wondering if you, like, grew up in the South.
Oh, yeah. I'm from
Yeah.
Louisiana. So the deep
Yeah.
South. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think this is, like, can be an international thing, it can be a thing anywhere, but I do think, like, specifically in the South, especially where, like, religion, Christianity is, like,
For
such
sure.
a such a deep part of our culture, like, the idea of sort of getting your life to, revolve around a man is, like, so, natural. It's
Totally.
like, it's encouraged, it's like, since I was in kindergarten, my mom was like, "Okay, who's your boyfriend?" Do
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Instead of like, "Hey, what do you like in class?" She was like,
Yeah.
"Who do you like in class?
Yes.
And who likes you back?" So I just feel like in the South, like, everything for a girl is all about, like, who is interested in you and what man are you getting to fall in love with you rather than, like, what are you interested in,
Mhm.
you know?
Totally. It's like part of our identity is built into who we're dating, who we like, who likes us, instead
Totally.
of the things that actually make us up as a person.
Right. Of
Yeah.
course.
So I know we talked about this a little before the podcast, but you basically posted a TikTok about this topic of being boy sober that went viral. And I was wondering what made you even post that TikTok? Like, how did you get where you got with this concept of boy sober? Was it a situationship, a bad relationship? How did this start?
Okay, it's a little bit long-winded, so I'll try to keep it focused.
Okay.
Essentially, I was technically single, okay?
Okay.
But I had this ex-boyfriend who was always in and out of my life. And I would essentially get into a situationship with a guy from Hinge, and then I would be, like, bored of that, and then I would call my ex back, and he would come over, and I would get bored of him again, and then I would go to somebody else and then go back to my ex, and I was doing all this back and forth. And I was posting my life on the internet, right? Like my love life, my crushes, my dates, like I was just telling everything. And the ex, and he was like my best ex. Like when I tell people I had to go boy sober, they always assume that like a man really did me wrong. And like
Yeah.
I've had men do me wrong, but I was doing this man wrong. Even though we weren't together, like I knew he loved me and I knew he would always be there for me. And I was always hoping that maybe one day I would finally fall in love with him too, you know?
Mhm.
And I did love him in a way, but I was never like fully in love with him. So in the summer of like 2023, essentially we're like in the throes of this pattern, right? I'd fallen in love with this guy from London and just like the British accent like made
Yeah.
me crazy. And I was just, like, doing anything I could do to get him to like me, and he just, like, wanted nothing to do with me. And finally, he just ghosted me. And after he ghosted me, I went back to this ex, and we spent, like, 3 straight days together, you know?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then again, I was like, "Oh, sick of you. Get out of my house," you know? And I posted a TikTok about it being like, "My ex just came over for 3 days." My ex's boss found this TikTok and sent it to him and said, "Are you okay?" And
Oh
now my
boy.
ex had me blocked on Instagram and TikTok and everything. Anyways, he unblocks me on everything, right? And he goes through my TikToks and he sees that in between our times together, he sees who I've been with, he sees who I've been in love with, he hears about the dates I've been on. And I'm just like, oh my God, I never meant to hurt him like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Of course.
I knew I was sort of like taking advantage of his love for me, but like, I never wanted him to know. I never wanted that to like, I never wanted to really break his heart. And around the same time, I had to like drive from New York to Tennessee to take care of my grandmother who like has really bad dementia. And on the drive, he calls me and he's like, I thought he was gonna be pissed, you know? Like, I thought he was finally gonna be like, "You're a bitch. You've done me wrong. You don't deserve me." Like, I thought he was finally gonna kinda, like, leave me, you know?
Mhm.
But then he, like, gave me another chance, and he was like, "Can't we just be together?" And I was a little bit upset with him about that because it was almost this thing of, like, so many men are, like, unable to see women for who they really are sometimes. They really only wanna see women for, like, who they think they are or who they think they can be, and that might not even be a man or woman thing, that just might be a if you're in love with somebody thing. You
Mhm.
see them as who you think they can be, not as who they are being, and so in that moment, I was like, "How can he give me another chance? How can I hurt someone I do truthfully love like this? Like, something's gotta change." So I tell him, like, I'm gonna think about it, right? And I go home to take care of my grandmother, and I tell him, I'm like, "I've gotta take care of my grandma for a week. Like, let's talk in a week and see how we both feel." And while I'm taking care of her, like, in her old age, her brain, like, you know, your brain, like, crystallizes in old
Mhm.
age. So, like, your brain really, like, solidifies a couple of things. Like, in dementia, you don't really know where you are, but your
Right.
brain is, like, attached to a couple of the things. The things that she is attached to is that, like, my grandfather is still around.
Mm.
And no matter what, every day on the hour, she's like, "When is Leroy coming home?
Mm.
Where is he? Can we go to his work? Da 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 da."
That's so
And
hard.
it's so tough. And in a way, it's like very lovely because she's like got this deep love for him. And he was like the only person to ever make her feel like seen and wanted and at ease. But at the same time, like, she will not accept help from me and my mom. Like, and she won't really accept help from, like, any woman. Like, she has verbatim been like, "I don't need anyone to help me except for a man."
Mm.
And
Mm.
me and my mom are just kind of like, "Well, we're here." You know what I mean? Like,
You're out of luck.
yeah, like and it's like my dad and mom divorced when I was younger, so it's like we were very much like a women helping women household.
Sure.
And there was one moment where, like, I was sitting and I was taking care of her, and she was texting on her phone, and I said, "Who are you texting?" And she was texting my papa. She's like, "I'm texting your papa." And he had passed away, obviously.
Mhm.
So she's like sort of just texting the ghost of someone. And I'm like thinking about how obsessed I become with people who
Yeah.
ghost me and like how I ghost people who love me. And I was just kind of like, oh my God, like if I don't get my shit together like immediately, like I'm gonna be 85 years old, like still obsessing over like some kind of love that is like toxic or absent, or I won't be able to like accept the love that is in front of me. And I was just like, okay, I have to do like a full stop. I
Mhm.
have to focus on myself. And I sort of realized I was asking myself, like, how am I able to hurt someone that I supposedly love? And I like went back into like my earlier experiences with like love and romance. And like, I was really young when I had my first, like, sexual experience, and I was, like, really heavily in the church, and, like, my parents were going through this divorce, and I, like, wasn't telling anyone, and, like, we were, like, learning about it all in youth group, but it was, like, through a lot of shame, and I didn't have anyone to tell, and I was, like, having sex and scared I was going to hell, and, like, just sort of, you know, my relationship with intimacy was, like, tied to secrecy
Oh, that's a big one.
deeply.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize, like, until I was right, like, 27, 28 years old, where I was like, okay, like, to be in love with someone or to maybe even have, like, an intimate relationship with someone, like, secrecy and shame has to be a part of it.
Mm.
And I was just like, I really need to unpack all of that. So that was like, and I sort of took October, like, all of this happened from, like, summer to October, and then October, I was like, I need to, like, I had done, like, moments of sobriety before, giving up drinking, and I was like, "I'm gonna do sober October, but I'm gonna give up men." And my sister, my oldest sister was like, "Easy, you're going boy sober." And just immediately, like, it gave sort of this entire idea of, like, untangling my relationship to intimacy and, like, male attention and, like, male security. Because I think also what
Mhm.
men do for us is, like, give us a really deep sense of security, even though it's like they're so often unreliable, or the ones who are reliable, like,
It's
we
like a
don't want
false sense
them.
of
Of
security.
course,
Yeah,
right? Of
yeah.
course. And like, even if you have them until, you get married to them and you want to spend the rest of your life with them, like, they might die before you, which
Sure,
is a
yeah.
devastating but honest truth. And like, at some point, you're gonna have to be alone and
Mhm.
have that sense of security alone. And so that's how the term came up, is I just, like, really needed to unpack all of that because, like, at the end of the day, I'm like, I wanna be in a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
would love to be able to have a husband one day and a family and, like, have that real true love, but, like, I knew I needed to take time alone to, like, actually get there.
It's reminding me of that quote, "You can only meet people to the depths of where you've met yourself."
Okay,
You
I've never
know?
heard that. I've never heard
Yeah.
that, but I love it.
But
Yeah,
it's
totally.
so what I hear in what you're describing of you weren't gonna be able to pick a partner that would really suit you or your life or really show up for that relationship until you took this time to yourself without the dating, without boys being around. I'm curious, you said you did it for maybe October. How long did it end up lasting? And then what do you believe changed in your life by taking dating off the table?
It's a really interesting thing because my experience with this was so tied to like exposure and public opinion.
Yeah.
And I've just read the book, The Dry Season by Melissa Febos. And she's an author. So her like expression is has a lot more privacy to it.
Mm.
And she essentially did the exact same thing, right? Where she took a year away from like romance and sex, and in the beginning of her book, she was having a conversation with someone, and that person was like, "Be careful who you tell because everyone essentially has an opinion on
Mhm.
celibacy, you
Mhm.
know?" And so in the beginning, like October, November, December, like it was very like it was intimate and yes, it was public, but it was like me and my little corner of the internet, you know? And like
Sure.
my audience, like every time I have someone come up to me somewhere, they're like, "Oh, I know you from the internet." They're like the coolest girls. Like they look like somebody I would like be friends with. They're like smart and funny and cool girls, you know?
Yeah.
But then in like January, when the year really kicked off, a New York Times headline came out about it. And the headline was like really intense. It was like Hope Woodard's year-long quest to not have sex or something. And I was just like, that is like so intense. And it was like, it was all about celibacy. And I was sort of like thinking about all the girls, like truthfully in Tennessee, who like still can't have sex outside of marriage and like feel
Yes.
empowered
Yeah.
by it, and I was like, I never ever wanted this to be like a celibacy is gonna fix your problems campaign or like making a woman feel like she can't have like a full sex life and still be like worthy of love and still be
Mhm.
able to like find her truth and everything. So like the journey continued, but honestly, it got, like, my attention and my story, like, sort of got so wrapped up in, like, everyone else's opinion, and I was dealing with it for a while until, like oh gosh, I'm just gonna give you the honest truth. Um, a best friend and I had, like, a big falling out, and I'm, like, codependent in my friendships, like, I don't know about you, but I'm, like which is also, like, something I need to fix, you know, like, I'm, like I love a codependent female friendship where you just, like, become sisters and talk to
Yeah.
nobody else
Yeah.
and just, like, are attached at the hip, and, like, we had a different perspective on what's happening sort of in the Middle East and
Mhm.
the war and
Mhm.
that is just something that's really important to me, like activism and sort of seeing that clearly, like and she and I loved each other so much and for so long we were able to like see past it, but there just came a time in that moment where like we couldn't really get past our differences and you know, as a progressive from the South, like I have been friends with people who don't agree with me politically my whole life and I think that that's a good and important thing, and that's something where, like, living in New York, I get a bit frustrated because people are only friends with people who think like them, and
Right.
I don't think that's helpful, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely important to, like, love and understand people who don't agree with you, but our friendship just bless you.
Thank you. I just sneezed. The listeners
That
really
sneeze was silent,
Yeah, I
like,
tried to keep it silent
that mic
so it
did
didn't
not pick it
disrupt you.
up a bit. That's so funny.
It's a pro podcaster right there.
That gorgeous. But, we just fell apart, and I didn't know what to do without her, like, to be
Mm.
totally honest, like, without her, I was, like, so lost, and then a boy slid into my DMs, and then I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna go to his show." Like, he was, is, whatever, a professional clown, literally. It's so New
It
York.
doesn't get any better for the
It's so
story.
New York. Like, a truly a clown, and, like, the moment I met him, he shook my hand with, like, one of those electric buzzers in his hand and shocked me, and I, like, wanted to slap him. Like,
Stop.
no, I'm like but anyway, I was, like, so down bad, I was like,
Yeah.
"Whatever."
Yeah.
And my truth is and, like, I don't know if you relate to this, and I'm curious how many women, especially, again, women from the South will relate to this,
Yeah.
but, like, when I'm performing for a man, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know how
Yeah.
to laugh when he needs me to laugh. I know how to be and, like, the thing about women from the South is we are charming. Like, we are charming and we are sweet and we can say, "Oh my goodness," and, like, men in New York are, like, so mesmerized by it, if I'm being
Really?
honest. Totally, because women in New York are honest and straightforward and they tell you how they
Right.
feel, and I need more of that in me. And, like, so the sort of Southern sweetness is, like, even when I'm at a table with girls from the South, I'm like, "Oh my god, I never feel like" we see each other and we see people and we listen in such a sweet way. And again, it can be, like, taken a little too far because sometimes we don't know how to put ourselves first.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it is like we're good at it. And so I meet this guy and he's so cute, or he's cute enough, whatever. He's like cute and he's funny. And we kiss. And then I'm like telling myself, I'm like, a kiss is okay. A kiss is okay. Because the truth is, like, I was upset when the headline was about celibacy, but I also at the same time did want to reevaluate my relationship to sex
Sure.
because, like, there's this sort of like happy medium between saving yourself for marriage and feeling like you can't have sex until you're married, but also like having sex in an intentional way. Like
Absolutely.
I think hookup culture sort of like sold us this lie that like having sex whenever you want, however you want, drunks, like what sober, whenever, wherever, like sold us this lie that like that was empowering. But
Right?
like it's not.
It's not.
Like,
I agree with you. Yeah.
at the end of the day, it leaves us feeling, like, confused and, like,
Empty.
empty, and you're like, I was just laying naked in bed with someone and, like, they don't know me or
Yep.
who I am,
Yeah.
and that's another sort of, like, false sense of connection and vulnerability, and so, like, I didn't really want to go back to having sex because I did wanna be able to, like, work that muscle of, like,
Mhm.
creating a relationship with a man without it, because honestly, it makes connection so much easier. Like, of course, you're gonna like someone if you're sleeping with them. Like, sleeping with someone is awesome if it's good. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Like, but we were, like, together one night, and, like, he was being romantic, and he, like, read me a poem, and I was like, "Oh, you're so smart and funny," and, like, one thing led to another, and, like, we sort of came to this moment where we could have or couldn't have, and I was like, "Am I not having sex for me, or am I not having sex because I feel like I'm not supposed to, because I've, like, told the entire world I'm not going to?"
Mm.
And so I did, and it was nice, and it was fine, and it was good, and, like, I honestly, like, felt kind of some relief because I felt like I was finally able to, like, do something that I wanted to do, not just do something because people wanted me to do it or because of an expectation or anything. But the truth is, like, that happened, but I'm still very much figuring out how to be in relation to men in a healthy way. Like, if I'm being so honest, like, I have not mastered that skill. And I started talking about this in 2023, you know what I
Right.
mean? And, like,
Right.
almost 2 years now, and I'm still, like, finding myself kind of in situations with men that I don't even like that much, or, like, sleeping with someone because it's easier to just sleep with them than it is to, like, be alone sometimes.
Mm.
And so, like, the journey is not over, and I'm like, I really have no idea when it will be.
Well, I think the interesting thing that I'm thinking as you talk is what I like about this concept of going sober. I've done the thing too where I'll take a break from drinking. I did a year without
Right,
drinking one time because
right.
I was just in this place of wanting to do deep dives on some other inner work with myself. And I found
Mhm,
myself distracting with that. And so it just
mhm.
was a time of, wanting to reevaluate, I think is the way you said it earlier, and
Right.
just really build a true relationship with it that was conscious. So
Totally.
it was like I wasn't just drinking as a habit or whatever, you
Right.
know? And I've done it with dating as well and with
Uh-huh.
after long-term relationships. And what I like about this concept is the pause, I think, is when we
Mhm.
reflect. It's when we actually ask ourselves, am I living off programming or am
Mhm.
I living in the way that is in alignment with me? That's what I really want. That isn't just like medicating some fear or hole or whatever you want to call it. That's actually
Yeah.
intentional, like you said.
Right.
And so I love that idea. And then as you were just saying the last part, I thought to myself, I'm in a relationship now though, and I don't know that the work of that ever ends because even
Totally.
when you enter into a relationship, there's new depths that you'll meet yourself or new things that'll come up, new patterns you'll notice within yourself. And so I just
Mhm.
like the idea of asking ourselves the questions and
Yeah.
giving ourselves the space to take the pause, to sit in the quiet, because I don't find that we do that very often in our culture. It's just the go, go, go. It's what you're
Mhm.
trained to do without
Mhm.
thinking. We just show up and do it.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think too, like, for me, it was a piece of, like, really unlearning some examples. Like,
Yeah.
the grandmother and mother piece of it all was like definitely, like, I was like, "I want to heal this part of me because I wanna have a daughter one day,
Yeah,
and I wanna be able to, like, not give her the same script, you know? Because
totally.
like, both my mom it was so interesting because like, during this time, it's like I've been doing a lot of just, like, writing and thinking, and I was going back to, like, my first moment with intimacy, and
Mhm.
like I sort of said, like, because I really do think if we don't heal those earlier moments and sort of get those skeletons out of the closet, they're in there dancing.
Oh,
You know what
yeah,
I mean? They're in
always.
there just,
Yes,
like,
yes.
absolutely pulling strings.
Yeah.
And I wrote this big long piece, just about how that happened because, again, my parents kind of got divorced and my mom got really depressed and my dad, like, moved out of the house and, like so it was just sort of like me and my boyfriend. Like, he became my family, you
Yeah,
know? And I feel like so many girls do that.
for sure.
They replace their family with their boyfriend, and then they have no idea how to feel safety or love outside of
Mm,
that specific type of love. And I was, like, reading her the story, and I stopped and I had never told her how old I was when I lost my virginity, never told her about this entire thing, like, this is the first time she was hearing about all of this. And I was, like I stopped kinda after that moment, and I was, like, "How do you feel?" And she was, like, "The same thing happened to me. Same
mm,
timing, same thing. My
wow.
grandparents got divorced. My grandmother moved in with another man. My grandfather disappeared. My mom turned a boyfriend into a family." And, like, that for me was, like, I don't know, so it made so much sense because we do just, like we repeat. Like,
Absolutely.
stories will repeat and repeat and repeat if we don't, like, stop and take the time to be like, "Okay, what was passed down?" Like, so
Mm,
much is in our genetics,
mhm.
and people don't wanna admit that their families are crazy, but I'm like, to be crazy is to be human, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? I'm like,
yeah.
I don't understand why it's so hard for people to admit,
Like,
like,
we all are. We
we've
all
got
have our
some
shit.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like and if you don't, you're not human, like, and what's the fun in that? Like, like, get into it, figure it
Yeah.
out, dissect it, like, pull it apart.
I have a question. You mentioned the breakup of the friend and kind of that was what led you to get back into dating, and so I was wondering, before that, I think you were doing your voiceover time, and did you notice a difference between the being alone piece,
Mm.
maybe even after that friendship, and actual loneliness?
Mm. I live in New York,
Yeah.
which, like, is a lonely place,
Okay.
um, and it's because it's like there's so many people around. But you don't know anyone so deeply. And,
Mhm.
like, I often find myself, like, missing Tennessee and missing Nashville and missing a small town and, like, romanticizing that in a way just because, like, here you can feel so isolated. And I don't really think here people, like yes, there is a sense of community, but that community sort of looks like, okay, if someone falls over and they've like broken their leg on the side of the road, 10 people will come around and help. But as soon as they're like on their feet and they're okay, it's like you don't exist again.
Right.
Whereas kind of in a small town or in the South, like there seems to be just a bit more camaraderie, you know?
Mhm.
And so like loneliness in New York can be tough. Um And honestly, like, I got to this point where I was here in New York and I was just feeling so alone and so kind of isolated, and my life was really online. And I
Right.
think, like, Instagram and TikTok, though so much of my work is on there and a lot of my success can be attributed to that, I do think it can be a really dangerous world to let yourself fall into because it's at the end of the day disconnection.
Mhm.
It's a very sort of what's the word? Like pretend version of connection. Like
Well, because 'cause we're all presenting what we wanna
we're
present. Yeah.
presenting, we're like
It's not
seeing
the full story.
highlights. We're
Mhm.
not with people in a room. We're looking at
Mhm.
likes, we're looking at reactions. We're letting so many like comments and opinions and And honestly, like, it just really gets to me anyways, you
Sure.
know? And so I honestly had to, like, go back to Tennessee and live there with my mom and my grandmother and, like, my hometown best friends, friends that have known me for life, to just, like, reconnect to myself
Mm.
and reconnect to them. And in some ways, like friendship in adulthood, you can become friends with someone because you're a version of yourself that's, like, far away from who you really are. You know, like, a lot of adulthood, I think, can be, like, getting away from your, like, childlike self or your,
Mm.
like, truest self, and, like, you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and you're trying to do the thing, and you're trying to, like, act like you're okay and you're good and you're everything. You know, but getting back to those roots, like, is really something I had to do, and I think that's something that finally sort of, like, gave me a sense of deep connection and really helped with that, like, loneliness.
So basically, what I hear, and correct me if I'm misinterpreting this, but you connecting back with yourself and with maybe who you were when you were younger, the people around you who've known you your whole life is really what helped with the lonely factor during this time.
Totally. Absolutely. It was like being with my high school friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like being with people who have known me my whole life. Being with people who will like say who will like call me on my shit and also know that I'm lovable.
of
You know what I
course.
mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was so important to me. And then also like I was talking to this one girl who introduced the concept of like solitude versus loneliness.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, that one little shift in perspective and she kind of was like, she's married now, and she was like, "I, sometimes miss my time being
Mhm.
alone, and I miss, like, being able to have that solitude." So also, like, reframing loneliness as solitude has been really helpful for me too.
Yeah, well, I think that's what I was, initially kind of wondering with the loneliness versus being alone factor, because I
Yeah.
could think a lot of people hearing the term boy sober and going, "Okay, well, I'm supposed to take this sabbatical from dating and sex. I'm gonna be so lonely," and they freak out. But
Right.
the point being what you just said of, like, we live online, we live so in this space of, like, completely disconnecting on so many levels that
Right.
we're not even connecting to ourselves, and the fact that we would
Absolutely.
choose to be alone for a moment sounds scary because we don't know how to connect with ourselves.
Mhm.
So do you feel like
Mhm.
you learned more about how to do that during this time?
I'm honestly like, I'm truly in the throes of it. Like, it's
Okay, yeah,
so
so it's still
crazy,
ongoing.
still ongoing. Like, I'll tell you, a bit of an epiphany I've had because I haven't been with a guy in a while, but I became sort of fixated on this guy who kept looking at my Instagram story.
Okay.
And I feel like so many girls know what this is like, but it's
Yeah.
like kind of a reply guy, kind of a guy who was just like always kind of in my DMs every now and again. And so it was like every Instagram story I would post, it was for him. And
Mhm.
everything I would do was just like, is this going to get a reaction out of him? And I'm taking a break from drinking again because I had a day of bottomless mimosas, which always
That's all you gotta say.
which always sort of takes me out of the game.
Yeah.
For a minute, I'm like, "Alright, gotta sit on the
Yeah.
bench for a while."
Yeah.
But, after this, I was like it was like a Sunday, I was with my best friend, and we had bottomless mimosas, and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna ask this guy what it is he's looking for." You
Sure.
know? So I sent him this text message, and I was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna be really direct. Like, what do you want from me?" And he was basically like, "Nothing." And I was like, "Totally, uh,
Yeah.
totally writing a story without your, permission or input." But to be honest, that was, like, 3 weeks ago, and since then, like, I have felt so sort of, like, set free. I think I'm, like, giving up drinking for a minute again because I'm like, "I wish I didn't have to ask that question after a day of bottomless mimosas." Like,
Sure. Yeah.
why couldn't you know what I mean? Like, I'd like to be able like, if I'm gonna ask something bold like that, I'd like to be 100%, aware of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um, but since then, I'm, like, reading books that I'm really interested in, like, I'm not scrolling and looking for his name, like, I'm not, I like, the term voiceover is really honest and true and accurate for me because I do have, like, a true fixation on, like, men and male attention, and I have this, like, deep thing of, like, they are gonna save me from myself.
Sure.
Like, if only this guy would like me, if only this guy would, like, be in my life. The reality that I know is as soon as I get them, I do not want them. You
Mm.
know what I mean? Like, if that guy wanted me, if that guy was doing more than looking at my Instagram story, I wouldn't want a thing to do with him. It's like this it's this, like, distance and this fantasy that I'm able to, like, come up with in that distance, you know? But recently, and I think, like, the lesson I have from all of this is, like, number 1, just ask. Like,
Mhm.
if you are fixated on someone and you've got this, like, fantasy in your head, like, I don't know why it is so hard for us just to ask a guy or ask someone, like, "Do you wanna do this? Like, are you interested in me?" Like, maybe it's because the fantasy is, like, so much safer, or, like, we're in control of it. But since then, I have been able to, like, actually have alone time, and I think you sort of said this earlier, like, so much of our alone time now, like, isn't really alone time because we're on our phones, and,
Mhm.
like, we're taking in, like, other people's lives and other people's words and other people's perspectives, and, like, a little bit of it is okay, but, like, to truly have solitude and, like, time alone with, like, yourself, um it's something you really have to carve out now. It's something you have
For
to be really
sure.
intentional about.
Mhm.
And so I'm like reading books that I am enjoying. I'm like having long talks with my best friends back home. I'm like um really sort of settling into like a new sense of solitude. But I had to really set myself free.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
from the male, specifically one male's gaze.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
I love the conversation about making up the fantasy story too, because I think that's
Uh-huh.
very common and it's very easy to do because of the movies we watch, even the reality
Mhm.
shows, like the dating shows. You know, it's this fairy tale where you fall in love in a week or whatever, and like it's just
Right.
realistic, but it is what we're
Totally.
shown all the time. So I
Yeah.
think it's very easy to fall into fantasy thinking, and so
Mhm.
giving the pause again is another way to not do that. But you
Mhm.
mentioned social media and men, and obviously, like, with that, I immediately think of validation, and so, have you
Mm.
found new ways to affirm yourself without seeking it out in those 2 ways?
You know, I am getting there. I really would need to be better about, like, writing down in the morning, like, "You are beautiful, you are smart, you are this, you are that."
Sure, yeah, the
'Cause
affirmations.
totally, I think that's, like, another thing, and, like, let me know if you relate to this, but, like, for me growing up, like, loving yourself in that way was not really seen as a necessary thing, and maybe even it was seen as, like, a selfish thing
Mhm.
to, like, really gas yourself up like that.
Sure,
Like
yeah.
like, to have a deep sense of humility, I think is really prioritized for women or, like, celebrated for women in the
That's
South.
definitely a Southern thing, yeah, for
Yes, because,
sure.
like I said, these girls in New York,
Yeah.
oh my god, they let you know. They
Yeah,
let you know they're in the room, they let you know
yeah.
how they think and how they feel, but for women in the South, it's like, to be small is to be celebrated, you know?
Mhm,
Like, to
mhm.
be nice is to be good, to not cause a ruckus, to and so, like, to be totally honest, like, that is also a muscle I'm still really building,
Mhm.
and I think people assume, like, just because I'm not scared to, like, say how I feel every now and again or, like, put myself out there or, like, you know, put myself online or whatever, they might assume that I have, like, a really deep sense of confidence. I think I have, like, a sense of bravery and maybe a sense of, like, I'm not irrational, but I do sort of do things without thinking too much.
Yeah.
And that is both a good thing and it's gotten me in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, one of my best and worst qualities. So the self-affirmation, like, I am definitely building that muscle. Like, being my
Okay.
own expert, that is, like, I think that's a moment that's, like, my focus right now. 'Cause honestly, I feel like a lot of the noise has finally settled. Like, at first, this Boysober movement was blowing up,
Yeah.
and it's a podcast now, but, like, I don't really interact with the internet in the same way that I did.
Yeah.
I'm much quieter online. I'm much more, like, based in reality,
Mhm.
and if I'm being honest, like, I do sort of feel like I'm finally sort of in a moment where I'm, like, doing it for myself and on my own terms and in my own way instead of sort of, like, opening it up to the public and being like, "How do you guys think I should do this?"
Right. What should I
Because
do? Yeah.
totally, like because, like, in all honesty, I think I replaced, like, male validation with, like, comment validation,
Yeah.
you know? Um which it's like, it's a beautiful thing because I love the girlies in the comments, and I'm thankful for them, and I also know it was, like, so helpful for them, like, one of my favorite comments to see is a girl being like, "I went boy sober because of you, and it's been, like, the best year of my life." Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing I love more than, like, getting to inspire someone to, like, do something that makes them happier, you know? But maybe right now I've just been quieter because I'm, like, doing that for myself for a little while.
Yeah. Well, and I love the idea too. I mean, obviously, you created the concept of voiceover because of a
Right,
TikTok, but you're
right.
also on the journey. So it's like we
Totally.
can take the pressure off of having to be these experts because if you're really
Right.
honest, like we are all on journeys constantly.
Totally.
And even when you think
Constantly.
you figured one thing out, the way that like life has worked for me is then there's another thing. And then it's
Totally.
just constantly kind of being in this growth pattern. But you did
Right.
mention the podcast, so let's
Yes.
talk about it because I know you said that you're 6 episodes in, is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
So what can the listeners, that are listening and interested in this topic or maybe contemplating going voice over themselves, what can they look to expect in your podcast? What kind of guests will you have?
The first episode is just sort of the introduction. So the story I've told is sort of like retold, but in kind of a beautiful way with like recordings of my grandmother and things like
Oh,
that. The second episode is like how to be single. There's another episode about like another like this woman, Melissa Phoebos. That's the last episode that came out. That's about, like, really truly going a year without sex and, like, doing a deep, like, internal dive to, like, figure out how to untangle your sort of romantic patterns, so that's what it's about sex, it's about being a woman, it's about falling in love, it's about, um, breaking hearts, and, like, it's not just about, like, abstinence or celibacy or giving men up, it's more so just, like, looking at what it is to, like, interact with love, self-love,
mhm.
familial love, romantic love, and exploring, like, all of those different types of love and, like, exploring sort of, like, how we're conditioned to interact with it and how we can, like, unlearn a lot of the
Yeah.
ways we were taught to interact with it.
I think that's beautiful because sober is obviously very tied to the word like addiction language.
Totally,
And
yeah.
so I think in a lot of worlds, if you're an addict of drugs or alcohol, you just stop doing the thing, right?
Right.
But dating and relationships and sex, it's a part of our life.
I
And so
know.
it's not a situation where we're just going to quit forever because
Totally.
we're built for connection. And so learning how to
Exactly.
do it in a way that is functioning for our lives and that really serves us,
Yeah.
I do think that that is a conversation that needs to happen.
It's like what like you said you took a break from drinking. It's like,
Yeah.
I know for me, like, again, I'm sort of doing that time and time again too, like,
Uh-huh.
giving it up because I think that, like, the line between sort of, like, choosing and using
Yeah.
is always, like, it's like a very delicate dance,
Yes.
and you can either, like, choose to have a drink, choose to have a beautiful night of lovemaking or whatever,
Right.
or you can be, like, using it to, like, escape your own body.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
and sort of, like, being able to more often choose instead of use is at the end of the day, the hope, you know?
Love that, choosing versus
Yeah.
using. So if
Yeah.
you're talking to the girl who created Boy Sober, the concept, now, how has that term and the whole experience of being boy sober evolved over the last however many months this has been?
Yeah. Um, if I were to go back and sort of talk to her, I would be like, "Do don't care about what anyone says. Like, don't like, understand it is for you." And
Mhm,
that is something, like, I also wanted to get across for other people too, and I think that's why the headline that came out with the New York Times, like, the first headline about it, I was so upset by it because, like, we are our own experts,
mhm,
and, like, nobody knows your relationship to love and sex and intimacy and romance like you do, and
mhm.
they're also, like, so deeply personal, and like we sort of talked about in the beginning, like, it depends on where you grew up, what type of church you went to, what type of, uh, 2nd grade teacher you had. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
all your
every
history.
all your history, like, your social, personal history, like, is what is going to, like, be important to focus on. Like, I keep referencing this book, like, by Melissa Febos, The Dry Season, but she's got, like, a list of questions in there that's just like, where was I selfish? Where did I hurt people? Where
Mhm.
did I not make myself known? Like, and like you kind of have to answer all of these questions for yourself and understand that like nobody else's journey is going to look exactly like yours and that's a good thing, you know?
Right, right,
Yeah.
so no one else can carve your path.
Right, totally.
So if people are listening and they're like, "I don't know if I wanna go full boy sober," what is one
Totally.
thing that you would suggest to prioritize in their life if they're feeling a little bit of the itch, but not wanting to go the full way?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that like honestly, like, for me, every time I give something up, it's
Mhm.
always because I've gotten sick of myself. You know what
Mm.
I mean?
Yes,
I am so sick of wallowing in the same shit,
yes.
being annoyed with the same shit, being left on red by the same type of guy. So maybe my advice is just like, let yourself get sick of yourself
Mm.
because, like, you know what? Like, sort of with my grandmother, you can be stuck in a pattern or a habit or a chase forever. And it's like, when you're ready, you will be ready. But just like, maybe it's just like allow yourself to one day be ready and also allow yourself to take it seriously.
Mm.
Like, I think for a long time, like giving up alcohol for a year changed my life too. I'm assuming it kind of changed your life.
It was great. One of the best things I've ever
Totally.
done.
Like,
Yeah.
absolutely changed my life, and I think it's like for a long time, I knew I had a problem, but I didn't wanna admit it,
Mm.
and maybe let yourself admit that, like, this is a bigger deal than you're letting yourself believe,
Mm.
and, like, you're not a bad person for admitting that, like, something might have a little bit of control over you.
Mhm.
Again, you're totally human, and, like, our systems are built to be dependent on shit, like, it's so
Yeah.
hard.
For
It's
survival, yeah.
totally, like, you know? And so it's, like, maybe that is, like, if you're considering it, it's just, like, allow yourself to take it seriously, and then maybe, like, have the bravery to just see what happens, you
Yeah.
know? And, like, I think, like, one of the best pieces of advice and one of the things that does always work for me is never to give myself a timeline. Like, every time I've given something up for, like, a meaningful amount of time, it was because I was just like, "Imma give it up today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it up today again. I'm gonna give it up today one more time." Like, you know what I mean? And, like, again, I'm sort of in this moment of, like, I've given up drinking and smoking weed, and I'm on, like, almost 30 days or something, and everybody keeps asking me, "How long are you gonna do this?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, "I have no idea." Because I think if, like, I give myself a timeline, you're just itching to get to that finish line.
Totally agree. Yeah.
And it's like, don't give yourself a finish line. And you know what? Let yourself consider getting back in the game if you want to. But just like each time, be honest with yourself.
Mhm.
And each day, like, in each moment, be like, am I really ready to let myself go back to what I was trying to fix? Bless
Yes.
you.
Thank you. Guys.
So that's what
Uh,
I would say.
yeah, I think that's a great, great tip. So we'll end there. That was a perfect
Thank you.
wrap. But hope the podcast is called Boy Sober. It's on iHeartMedia, as I told you guys, and you can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. Where else can people keep up with you if they're interested in keeping up with your
Yes.
journey?
I'm on Instagram at just hoping along. So it's like just hopping along, but 1 P.
Really cute. Just
Yeah.
hooping along. I will
Yeah,
put that
yeah.
as well in the description of this podcast for you guys.
Cute.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story
Thank
with
you.
us.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. Thank you for just letting me yap. I'm like, I just got to talk and talk and talk. Thank you.
We like to do therapy on this podcast. So,
Yes.
all right. Thank you guys so much for listening.